Okay, imagine this. You're wearing a $30,000 Patek Philippe watch. You walk into an upscale shop in Manhattan to get it appraised. The master watchmaker checks it under his loupe, opens the back, looks at all the tiny gears inside. He nods. He approves it as 100% real. Except that watch was never made in Switzerland. It was built in a massive warehouse outside Guangzhou, China, for about $400. And a guy who spent 15 years learning how to spot fakes couldn't tell the difference. This is the super clone market. Underground industry analysts say it's worth over 100 billion US dollars. That's not a typo. Somewhere out there, a shadow economy has quietly gotten so good at copying luxury goods that even professionals can't reliably catch them anymore. So let's break this entire industry down properly, level by level, and figure out how something built on being impossible to copy is getting cloned so well. Level 1, the factory. This is where it all starts, and it's not some sketchy back alley shop. It's a massive, clean room factory that looks more like a tech company than a counterfeit operation. 10 years ago, a fake watch was obvious. The gold plating rubbed off, and it was way too light, and it just felt cheap. But around 2015, these factory bosses realized horology isn't magic. It's just geometry. If you have the right machines, the spring is just a spring, and a gear is just a gear. So factories started buying actual $40,000 watches, taking them completely apart and scanning every single part down to 1/100th of a millimeter using industrial 3D laser scanners and high-precision measuring machines. They then feed that CAD file into 5-axis CNC milling machines operating in huge automated facilities. The result is not just a watch that looks similar. The actual mechanical guts inside are functionally almost identical to the real thing. It's gotten so extreme that you can literally take a gear out of a genuine Rolex movement, drop it into a $400 clone, and the watch will tick perfectly. This is exactly why human expertise doesn't work as a defense anymore. Level 2, the shipping trick. Once you've built a super clone good enough to fool an appraiser, the next big problem is moving it across international borders without getting it seized. For a long time, the favorite strategy was component splitting. A single watch would be broken down and mailed through separate packages using different transit hubs. The metal bracelet gets shipped labeled as machine spare parts. The glass face gets shipped as glass samples. And the actual watch movement, the heart of the piece, gets mailed separately, via express courier straight to a residential address. Once all the pieces arrive, an operative just clicks them together on a workbench in 20 minutes. This pipeline relied heavily on the de minimis exemption, which allowed packages under $800 to enter countries like the United States with almost zero documentation or physical inspection. But in 2025, the U.S. government officially shut that loophole down, stripping away the low-value tariff exemptions and enforcing new digital data mandates for international shipping. So today, while smugglers still try to split shipments, the margins have shrunk, the inspection rates have multiplied, and the whole operation is way riskier and more expensive than it was even a year ago. Level 3, the diamond disruption. This disruption isn't just about steel and gears. The exact same kind of technological collapse hit the $80 billion natural diamond industry too, and the fallout was chaotic. For over 100 years, a single cartel basically controlled the global supply of rough diamonds, keeping prices high by manufacturing scarcity. We were told diamonds were rare, so we paid like they were rare. Then, commercial chemical vapor deposition, or CVD reactors, changed the entire game. These aren't fakes. They are actual diamond crystals grown in a vacuum chamber, layer by layer, over a few weeks. Chemically, physically, and optically, they are 100% identical to mined diamonds. Same carbon, same hardness, same sparkle. The impact was immediate. De Beers, the main architect of the Diamonds Are Rare story, was forced to cut prices on its own lab-grown line by 40%. Traditional jewelers realized basic thermal probes couldn't distinguish a stone forged deep in the Earth's mantle from one grown in a lab outside Shanghai 3 weeks ago. The foundational value of the entire industry, rarity, evaporated in less than a decade. Level 4, the fake paper trail. Even with a perfect clone in hand, high-end buyers still want proof. They want the box, the warranty card, and that special little green tag. So a whole separate part of this underground economy exists just to fake documentation. But it goes way deeper than just printing paper. Some groups actually hack into real dealer inventory systems and harvest unassigned serial numbers straight from authorized Swiss watch shops. They then take those real numbers, engrave them onto the superclone watches, and print convincing warranty cards with NFC data that matches the manufacturer's system. If a potential buyer scans that card with their phone, it doesn't pop up with an error. It pulls up as a real registered watch tied to an actual boutique somewhere in London or Zurich. The fake product now has a complete digital paper trail that checks out on the surface, even though the actual watch never came anywhere near Switzerland. Level 5, the secondary market panic. This is where things start breaking for people who are not even trying to buy fakes on purpose. Pawn shops and secondary dealers used to run a pretty simple business. Buy a pre-owned luxury item cheap, visually verify it, and resell it for a profit. But once superclones got this accurate, dealers genuinely could not trust their eyes anymore. If a shop buys a fake Rolex Daytona for $15,000, their entire profit margin for the month might get wiped out. There are even stories throughout the trade of authorized brand service centers accidentally servicing high-end clones without realizing they were working on counterfeit movements until they tried to order replacement parts directly from Switzerland. To actually be 100% sure a watch is real now, you would need lab-level metal testing that can permanently damage the watch, and that most shops simply don't have access to. So instead of taking that risk, a huge chunk of the resale market just freezes up and prices start dropping because nobody fully trusts what they are buying anymore. Level 6, the realization. This is the level where the whole thing kind of hits you at once. The perceived value was never about the metal or the mechanism inside the watch. Picture putting a real $30,000 sports watch right next to a $400 clone on a table. Under standard viewing conditions, most people, including professionals, cannot tell them apart without specialized equipment. So what were you actually paying that extra $29,600 for this whole time? Think about someone who bought that rare watch because almost nobody else could get one. That exclusivity was basically the entire point of the purchase. It functioned as a signal of wealth, status, and access. Now picture that factory overseas producing 10,000 identical versions. The physical watch itself didn't change at all, but the story that justified its price tag just quietly fell apart underneath it. The scarcity was always an illusion, and the illusion just cracked. Level 7, the bigger picture. And here is the part of this that goes way beyond just watches and diamonds. Luxury brands are spending huge money fighting back with new anti-counterfeiting measures. Things like tiny micro engravings inside the sapphire crystals, ownership history tracked on private blockchains, and encrypted microchips meant to prove authenticity in supposedly unfakeable ways. But every single time a brand builds a new wall like this, a factory finds a workaround within a few months. Because realistically, you cannot litigate against an entire decentralized supply chain that is spread across different countries with completely different laws. A legal injunction from a European court carries zero weight against an unregistered manufacturing facility operating across the globe. Think about any product whose price is mostly based on it being rare, rather than being actually hard or expensive to make. The moment cheap, high-precision manufacturing catches up to that product, the whole luxury label built on top of it stops meaning much of anything, and the scarcity that justified the price quietly collapses.